The Fyrún Saga continues. For those of you who watched my last video, I know it probably felt like the end, as in a sense it was, at least of the main story, but this video will act as an epilogue exploring the post-game of conceptual games Pokémon Brain and Pokémon Brawn, as some familiar faces will be featured as they will visit the Fyrún region with some updates to their appearances and Pokémon teams. Now this post-game isn't anything too extravagant, as I do have 2 DLCs on the horizon as well, but there will be plenty of new content and challenges within the post-game. It will also tie some of those loose story ends up into a nice bow, as this chapter, or epilogue, is essentially the calm before the storm, which will be the epic adventures that await in the 2 DLCs. So let's see what happens after you become the champion of the Fyrún region. A fantastical place with a variety of diverse and breathtaking landscapes, each housing magical and mighty creatures known as Pokémon, wielded by fierce warriors known as Pokémon trainers. Over the next several videos on my YouTube channel, I plan to take you on an epic adventure through my imagination, as I'll fully explore the sagas of the Fyrún region just as they would unfold in its conceptual games Pokémon Brain and Pokémon Brawn, introducing all of the characters you'd encounter on your journey and their Pokémon teams, including some familiar faces from all over the Pokémon world. But first, you must select the starter Pokémon that will be accompanying you on your quest. You have the Grass Cup Berry, the Fire Pony Faloga, and the Bubble Crab Crabub. So which of these 3 will be your secret weapon in the Fyrún region? I've been exploring the Fyrún region in an ongoing series here on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram page at Mykel_regions, commissioning a variety of talented artists to help bring all of my ideas and designs to life, and take you on an exciting journey through my imagination in my own little corner of the Pokemon world inspired by Iceland and Norse mythology. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button, and if you'd like to learn even more about the Fyrún region, for those of you who are new, I highly recommend checking out some of my previous videos, especially those from this series known as the Fyrún Saga, as they set up the story that this video will essentially be the cherry on top of. So doing so would make all of this make a lot more sense for those of you who are new. Without further ado, let's dive right into it and look at what the post-game would have to offer. After defeating the game, you'd wake up in your bedroom like previous games, and when going downstairs you'd be greeted by your mother, Professor Aspen, who says there's someone she'd like you to meet, telling you to stop by her Pokemon lab before leaving your charming hometown of Apruna. Outside of her Pokemon lab, you'd be greeted by your childhood best friend, who earlier in the story was turned into your primary rival. So you were both recently put through the ringer, but it's clear that your friendship is now stronger than ever as a result, and everything is completely fine between the 2 of you now. You both go inside, where you'd be greeted by none other than Professor Oak from the Kanto region. He will congratulate you on becoming champion, and saying he heard of the fight you 2 had against the divine Pokemon, and how you prevailed, saving the Fyrún region in the process. Professor Oak then offers the 2 of you a Kanto starter Pokemon, which will already have a Forge Form mark, so after fully evolving it will be able to access its Forge Form weapon out of the gate without having to go through the way of the warrior super training. And the 2 Kanto starters you did not pick would end up becoming available in raid battles within their final stage, as their Forge Form weapons would be wielded by a raider. Like Galar and the Paldea region, the Fyrún region would have its own form of raid battles. You'd find giant rune stones throughout the Fyrún region, transporting you to raid dens with rampaging Pokemon in the same manner as the previous games. However, a lot of these raids would be led not by a rampaging Pokemon, but instead by an Iron Knight or Golem known as a Raider. These Raiders are not human. They were actually created by the divine Pokemon Edlodin, the father of the Forge Form phenomenon, in order to stand up to Team Brain and Team Brawn, as they are led by the 2 divine Pokemon seeking to overthrow it and conquer the Fyrún region, as well as a way to test trainers in order to find a worthy successor of wielding its power, since its current partner champion Odin is growing weaker by the day with age. So these Raiders are magical beings that will wield a Forge Form weapon just as a trainer would. And like regular raids, the Pokemon Forge Form weapons they use would vary, with some monthly events to get special ones like starter Pokemon, Legendaries, or Shinies in the form of 7-star raid bosses. Once defeating the Raider, they will collapse, as that Forge Form weapon will turn back into its normal Pokemon form, as you will now be able to capture it, and if you do so, that Pokemon will automatically have a Forge mark, allowing it to access its Forge Form, as you wouldn't be required to do the Way of the Warrior super training, as you would have to with most Forge Form capable Pokemon, before being able to transform them into their Forge Form weapon. So the Kanto starters and their forge forms would be accessible in the post-game. And yes, I am aware that the Kanto starters, Charizard specifically, get enough love, but at this point it's just a tradition with all the new mechanics, and like it or not, they are the OGs and mean a lot to a majority of the fan base. However, these aren't the only forge form weapons that would only be accessible after beating the game. After the ritual the Divine Pokemon performed in the Aurora Hedge, using the Arcane Rune of Heart artifact, a bunch of legendary Pokemon from previous regions were drawn to the region. This event basically acted as a beacon for these legendaries, so many of them will be available in the post-game as Berserker Pokemon in 7-star raid battles, and a handful of which will even have forge form weapons in 7-star raid battles, wielded by raiders. For example, Kyogre and its Defender type forge form would be a Pokémon Brain exclusive, and Groudon and its Wrecker type forge form would be a Pokémon Brawn exclusive. And I hate to tease you, but you're gonna have to wait just a little bit longer to see what all of these legendary forge forms look like, as I plan to introduce them all either within the DLC videos or a future forge form focused video. So for now, you're just gonna have to use your imagination. Also, all of the unique Pokemon forms and evolutions found within the Seydrian region would also be available in the post-game after connecting Pokémon Brain and Pokémon Brawn to the conceptual Pokémon Legends Realm Doll game, which for those of you who are new, is a Pokémon Legends game like Pokémon Legends Arceus, taking place within an ancient Fyrún region at a time it was first being settled and known as the Seydrian region, which reflects the Viking settlement of Iceland. The inclusion of these thought to be extinct Pokemon would be explained by the reality distortions created by legendary Pokemon Realm Doll, who controls reality and can open portals to other realms. Here's where all of the Seydrian Pokemon would be found within the modern day Fyrún region after connecting the games. Seydrian Torkoal and its evolution Eruptoise would be found within the Geyser area. Seydrian Whimsicott would be found in the New Bloom Fields area. Seydrian Skiddo and Go-Goat would be found in the Lowford Farmlands. Seydrian Spydream and Nightmarak would be found in the Enchanted Forest area. Bear Arctic's new evolution Polarctic would be found in the Iceberg Islands. Onyx's new ancient evolution Glaciix would be found in the Ice Cave. Seydrian Draudigan and its new evolution Gargoygon would be found within the Grotto areas. Seydrian Mandibuzz would be found within the Galvanized Garden area, or the surrounding canyon. Seydrian Tentacool and Tentacruel would be found by the Pokecorp Oil Rig. Seydrian Chinchou and Lantern would be found in the waters by the Black Sand Beach. Seadra's new evolution Horasi would be found in the waters by the city of Husale. Seydrian Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume would be found within the Bay Islands. And of course, Seydrian Dragonite would be found at the lake in the center of the region. All of the forge forms exclusive to Pokemon Legends Realm Doll would also now be available within the post-game, within raid dens used by raiders. This also includes the Seydrian starters forge forms, being Seydrian Chestnut, Seydrian Emboar, and Seydrian Empoleon. So you would be able to catch these starter Pokemon as well. The only forge form from Pokemon Legends Realm Doll that would not be available in raids would of course be the legendary Realm Doll's forge form sword, as it would be a boss battle in the post-game after connecting the two games. But after you capture it, it would already have its Forge Form mark and access to its powerful Forge Form weapon based on the Bifrost Bridge. Legendary Quattree, who is a 4th legendary bird, would also be available in the wild of the post-game along with the other 3 legendary birds as roaming Pokemon. However, like all the other Pokemon I just listed, these legendaries would only be available after connecting the game to Pokemon Legends Realm Doll. You'd also be able to rematch the gym leaders in the post-game with updated full teams of 6 and even powered up attacks in the freestyle sections wielding their forge form weapons. So while they take place in the same locations, these rematch battles would be more challenging. If you're wondering what a freestyle section is, the last few videos gave you a glimpse of the gameplay while wielding a forge form weapon, introducing new RPG style sections of battle called freestyle sections that are seamlessly sprinkled in to the traditional turn-based Pokemon battles, at least while wielding a forge form. These sections and how your opponents in this video battle within these sections will be brought up several times throughout this video. The incredible animator at Yes Sir did a phenomenal job bringing all of my ideas to life in beautiful fashion. Thanks to him, I'm finally able to show you the forge form mechanic in action just how I've always imagined it. And believe me, you've seen nothing yet. There is plenty more just like this to come, and I cannot wait to share it with you. So please make sure to go give him a follow to see even more of his beautiful 3D models and animations. I'd also like to give a shout out to my good friend Trainer Mats, the phenomenally talented artist I commissioned to draw all of these characters and forge form weapons. I always have so much fun working with him, we work great together. So please do yourself a favor and make sure to go check out his and all the other amazing artists I commissioned to bring my ideas to life's Fakemon projects as well. The links to all of their pages can be found in the description below, so please go give them some love. As far as these gym leaders' battle tactics go in the freestyle sections, I already revealed that in my previous gym leader focus video, and even the rematch teams. But here's a quick recap of the rematch teams you'd battle in the post game for any of you who may have missed that video. After beating them, they'd even have updated dialogue to let you know just what they've been up to since your last encounter and you've become champion. As a member of the region's Pokemon Contest Committee, Julia is going on a trip to the location of the first DLC as a new round of contests is starting up. So her mentioning this is laying the groundwork for your next adventure where she will be making yet another appearance. The Grass-type specialist Burker is busy as ever working on the Lowford farmlands with help from his son Burner, saying you left quite the impression on his son, who is an Elite 4 member. Ragnar aka Fantasia is looking to do something new and exciting with their newfound confidence. Also foreshadowing their role in the first DLC, the Queen's Beauty, as they will start their own team, Team Beauty, to take the region's upcoming Pokemon Contest Festival by storm. Fairy-type specialist Ludwig still isn't your biggest fan, but has heard that you saved the region and thanks you in his own unique way, while simultaneously insulting you, of course. Fire-type specialist Cole offers you a taste of his new dish, saying none of his gym challengers since have been quite as useful in the kitchen, and that you are welcome back anytime. The twins Minnie and Magnus will be visited by their father after defeating them in the rematch, as he wants to take them out for ice cream, so he's clearly making an effort to spend time with his kids since his team's been dismantled. The water-type specialist Maria, who's from my third upcoming Fakemon region, the Zone region, once again thanks you and tells you she's going to go back to the Zone region to confront her family, revealing that her mother is a well-known figure in the Zone region and a member of the Elite 4, also specializing in the water typing. And of course, the powerful Steel-type specialist Seydrian, once again impressed by your skills, will tell you about what she calls Valhalla, which is the top-secret battle frontier located on a series of floating islands high above the Fyrún Region, setting the stage for the second DLC, The King's Bounty, saying only the best of the best from around the world can access these floating islands and participate in this battle frontier. But she thinks you are more than ready to conquer this new frontier, which says a lot coming from her. The Elite 4 would also be able to be rematched in the post-game, with additions to their Pokemon teams and Forge Form attacks in the freestyle sections as well. Also, I mentioned that all of the Elite 4 members had unique chamber rooms tailored to their fitted Pokemon typings, but looking at your comments, I realized I actually forgot to mention what they look like, so I wanted to do that real fast to help give you a better picture of that. So the floor of Ground-type specialist Burner's chamber is made up of thick mud and some rock formations along the walls, whereas Irma's chamber looks like a chemical power plant with a steel platform for the floor with a giant pit of green acid visible underneath, as a fun little reference not only to her Harley Quinn inspiration, but more importantly her poison typing. Sharing a chamber room and rotating the role as an Elite 4 member, Wife's Winter and Winda's chamber room is an indoor winter wonderland with heavy gusts of wind periodically blowing through the chamber, so it's representative of both their ice and flying typings. And last, but certainly not least, there's your mother's good friend and your former mentor who taught you how to wield a Forge Form, Dark-type specialist Isaac. Now, being blind, he can't exactly decorate all that well, so his room's pretty simplistic and is dimly lit to fit his dark typing. However, there are swords and some lit torches along the wall, which is representative of his ace Pokemon Magnarok's fire typing, as well as his role as a skilled swordsman. All of the Elite 4 members' new dialogue after defeating them makes it clear they serve you now as they once did champion Odin, who according to them has mysteriously vanished since losing to you. Your former mentor Isaac seems to be worried about him, but fear not, him and Edlodin will return in the second DLC, both with major parts to flesh them out more, as they weren't really properly introduced till the end of the story. Because former champion Odin is missing, after defeating the Elite 4 in the rematches, it would be a lot more like the champion battles in Sun and Moon, where you face random competitors, as you are now the champion, just like in those games. You'd also be able to rematch your mother, Professor Aspen, and Rival in the post-game. Your mother can be found in her Pokemon lab, where she will ask you if you'd like to battle, taking it outside into the snowy hills, and she'd use her starter Pokemon's Forge Form weapon, and once again make the most of her Rotom wheelchair's hover functions to fly around the battlefield. whereas you'd be able to find your best friend along the Black Sand Beach and have a rematch there, as this was the location of your first battle after each initially joining your respective team. While they still have the divine Pokemon they captured on their team, the Forge form they use will vary in this battle, being any of the Forge forms they previously used throughout the game. It all depends on the course of the battle, so be prepared for anything, as their battle tactics and attacks within the freestyle sections will vary depending on the Forge form they use. Now, I know I spend a lot of time talking about the freestyle sections of this game, and that's only because it is unique to the Forge form mechanic and these games. However, don't forget that the majority of the battles within Pokémon Brain and Pokémon Brawn would still be turn-based. In fact, even the boss battles against the trainers using Forge forms would still be mostly turn-based, as they wouldn't actually wield their Forge forms until the end of the battle. And even after doing so, these freestyle sections are only 60 seconds, sprinkled in alongside the traditional turn-based style battles, similar to how the throwing of the bombs and more RPG elements were sprinkled into the boss battles in Pokemon Legends Arceus, which totally inspired this mechanic, by the way. So it'd be very similar to that, how the two styles are seamlessly blended. As promised, there are also former champions from various regions returning to test their skills in the Fyrún region and try the Forge form mechanic out for themselves. As thanks to you for saving the Fyrún region, the Forge form mechanic has become a lot less taboo and is no longer perceived as barbaric. In fact, it's now celebrated within the Fyrún region and is slowly gaining traction within the rest of the Pokemon world, as more and more regions are hearing about it, drawing some of the strongest trainers to the region, as it's said to be the true test of a great trainer and their bond with their Pokemon. So of course some of the strongest trainers in Pokemon history would want to master this new mechanic. Speaking of which, let's start off with Leon, who's considered one of the strongest Pokemon trainers of all time, wielding a Forge form bow of his ace Charizard that shoots magical fire arrows. I feel Leon is one of those trainers who just loves to battle and is always trying to push himself further, so I can totally see him being drawn to the excitement and challenge of a new phenomenon such as Forge forms. Those of you who watched my Pokemon Legends Realm Doll video also know he has an ancestor in the Fyrún region back at the time of Seydrian region, Oliver, so maybe he wants to learn more about his family history. And before anyone brings up Professor Lavington, remember that relationship was never actually confirmed, and also don't forget people have far more than one ancestor on either side of their family. I wanted to give him a more regal look, like his post-game outfit in Sword and Shield, that also felt more grand for the Fyrún region, as he's essentially a warrior here. So I decided to give him a cape on one side with a golden Charizard armor shoulder pad, using the colors found in both of his previous outfits so it felt in line with those outfits and like something he'd actually wear. You'd battle Leon in the geyser area as he's sightseeing and taking in the region's natural wonders. Also, this area makes for quite the unpredictable arena, as you'd have to also avoid the erupting geysers in the freestyle sections of the battle while wielding your Forge form, which would not only take off some of your health, but could potentially burn you as well. Leon's team is mostly the same, as he will use the Galar starter weaker to yours, like in Sword and Shield, but has a couple new additions from the Fyrún region to make sure you have a champion time, such as Salvoltaic and Niklas. In the freestyle sections of this battle, wielding his Forge form, he will not only make use of the Piercer type's wide range attacks in the form of Charizard's magical fire arrows, but will use the blades of the bow in close combat too. So his fighting style will be quite versatile. He also has signature attacks he utilizes, like a giant fire blast attack he charges up and shoots from his bow that will knock off a huge chunk of your health and cover a bit of the battlefield, with the potential to even burn you carrying over into the turn-based sections. He also has a fire spin attack where he engulfs his razor-sharp bow in flames and throws it like a boomerang, doing continuous damage if it manages to actually hit you, and once again potentially even burning you. He will occasionally lift his bow into the air as the wings will extend, soaring him into the sky to evade your attacks, only coming down to strike when the time is right, similar to your battle with Champion Odin and his Forge form. Given Leon's a secret boss, he does have a KO attack you will have to stop before it's too late, in the vein of G-Max Wildfire, where he shoots a flaming arrow that turns into a fiery phoenix, swallowing the entire battlefield in a Crimson Inferno. This move can be prevented though, like I said, by doing enough damage before he actually executes it, but he will also use his bow to soar into the sky and create a good amount of distance from you before charging up for this attack. So you have to strike quickly, and there will be quite a distance between you two, so move fast. After defeating Leon, the Sword and Shield mascot Legendaries Forge forms would become available in 7-star raid battles wielded by raiders. and after defeating these raiders, you'd be able to catch these legendary Pokemon, once again with their Forge Form marks. Now, I'll actually reveal what these 2 legendary Pokemon's Forge Forms would look like in a later Forge Form focused video, but I am sure you can imagine, especially for these 2. Another fan favorite champion and one of the most iconic trainers in all of Pokemon, who is absolute nightmare fuel for a large part of the fan base, is Cynthia. Although if you thought she was scary before, imagine her with a Phantom immune to fairy types and wielding a Garchomp Scythe. You'll encounter Cynthia in the picturesque scenic Sanctuary Peninsula area, which is just as beautiful as she is, painting the perfect backdrop for this battle. Cynthia is an archaeologist, so she's not just here to test out the Forge Form mechanic, but observe the arcane artifact known as the Rune Stone, as it's not only the key to several of the region's evolutions, but is linked to the creation of the Forge Form phenomenon and the divine Pokemon's master plans which you foiled. So she's curious to uncover its secrets, and this interest is what led her to acquire one and use it to evolve her Spiritomb into a Phantom. As far as Cynthia's new updated design for the Fyrún region, I wanted to stick true to her original design, but give it that real Nordic feel, fitting of the Fyrún region, that I also feel already fits Cynthia so well. I mean, she's got the blonde hair, she's already got fur in her design, so it's kind of just expanding upon that. Speaking of which, the changes in her outfit may look subtle, to the point you may not even notice them at first glance, and that's actually intentional, as I wanted her Garchomp Scythe to really stand out amongst the blacks, and once again, I wanted this outfit to feel like something she'd actually wear. I mean, she's already wielding a scythe, so I felt like if her outfit was too drastically different, it'd be a little bit overwhelming. But if you take a closer look, you'll actually see the outfit is quite different from her original one, and really captures those Icelandic and Norse elements. I particularly really love the fur boots, not gonna lie. And she would use them to stomp all over you. Cynthia would be as challenging as ever, with slight updates to her team, such as Jinx's new evolution, Niflheim, Spiritomb's new fairy-type immune evolution, Phantom, and of course, wielding her Garchomp's fierce Forge Form Scythe. In the freestyle sections, Cynthia would make the most of slasher-type weapons' swift attacks, twirling her razor-sharp scythe around as if she's dancing elegantly across the battlefield while executing her close combat attacks. Because of how she spins around while attacking in such quick succession, it makes it hard not only to dodge or block her attacks, but get your own in as well. So your only chance of doing so is by timing your block perfectly to disrupt her onslaught of slashes, and then just hack away at her health for as long as possible, because after a while she'll lunge backwards, creating some distance, and then go right back into her spinning scythe attacks. She also has signature attacks that make the freestyle sections even harder, such as a Sandstorm attack where she spins her scythe, making several Sandstorm tornadoes that rampage across the battlefield for you to avoid. And they move quite sporadically across the field, making them hard to avoid and taking out a good chunk of your health if they manage to hit you. In fact, more than one can even hit you at a time, stacking on the damage. So they make it that much harder to evade her scythe attacks. She utilizes another signature attack I like to call Dragon Rush, where she jumps into the sky enlarging the blade of her scythe, and when she lands back on the ground, she starts doing several large swipes with her new elongated scythe, taking up large amounts of the battlefield and even larger amounts of your health. The only way to really evade this attack is to block, but the attacks are so fast, you really have to time it right, and timing it in a manner to disrupt her attacks, like most moves, is next to impossible with these super slashes. Like Leon, she also has a one-hit KO move in the form of a Draco Meteor-like attack, summoning meteors from the sky crashing down onto the battlefield. These meteors, while fast, are avoidable, but once one hits you, it's game over. And unlike most one-hit KO moves, there's no way to stop this attack before it happens, so you have to make sure to avoid all 6 or 7 meteors that come crashing down from the sky, in addition to her spinning scythe attacks. So there will be quite a lot going on in this battle, and since Cynthia has a reputation as one of the hardest opponents in all of Pokemon, I wanted to represent that in both the turn-based and freestyle sections of this battle. Cynthia is also unique in the sense that while you can always count on her to wield her Garchomp's Forge Form Scythe, after charging up her Forge Force gauge, rather than using her finisher move like most opponents, depending on the course of the battle, she may select the Arsenal option, allowing her to return her Garchomp back to its normal Pokemon form and switch it out for another Forge Form capable Pokemon in her team. And she has 3 others, with Roserade's Piercer-type Lance, Phantom's Defender-type Shield, and Niflheim's Wrecker-type Hammer, wielding that Pokemon's Forge Form instead, and therefore adopting its fighting style in the freestyle sections and changing her battle tactics. Garchomp's Scythe, being a slasher type, obviously has all these swift and intense combo attacks I talked about, whereas Roserade's Lance, being a piercer type, has the versatility of far and close range attacks, with thorn-based moves that limit your space on the battlefield. Her Phantom Shield, being a defender type, automatically neutralizes all your head-on attacks, but she will often counter using a shadowy move to blow you back and take off a huge chunk of your health. This shield can also turn into a shadowy vortex, absorbing any of your projectile attacks and releasing them back at you with twice the strength. And of course, her Niflheim Hammer not only hits hard as most record types do, but can inflict you with the Frostbite status, or when she smashes it down on the ground, unleash a chain of pointed ice pillars that you have to dodge as well. So yes, she is the hardest opponent in the entire game, and at least as far as the freestyle sections go. But if you manage to defeat her, Darkrai and Cresselia will become available in raid battles, each having a Scythe Forge form wielded by a raider. So after defeating the raider, once again you could capture these Legendaries with their Forge form marks. So you'd have their Scythe Forge forms right out the gate, which will be revealed in a later video. These two secret bosses won't be the only champions returning though. There will be 2 more champions returning in the Fyrún Region's 2 DLCs. In the first DLC, The Queen's Beauty, you'd encounter Hoenn champion Wallace and his new ace Dugong evolution, Selkie, as he's a participant in the Pokemon Contest Festival taking place in this fantastical new tale. And you'd even be able to battle him at the end of this DLC, wielding a brand new Forge form weapon, unleashing a series of water-based attacks on the battlefield to wash you away in the freestyle sections. Whereas in the second DLC, The King's Bounty, you'd have a chance to battle the champion from my first Pokémon region, the Leweka region, Dragon-type specialist and former king, Ekene, and his Acrane's Forge form Spear, as they command the freestyle sections with intense and powerful light-based attacks that will leave you powerless. I'll get more into these two champions' battle tactics, new roles, designs, and Pokemon teams within the DLC videos they are introduced in. So more to come on them later. Anyways, that's it for this video and the story of games Pokemon Brain and Pokemon Brawn. So please make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and more importantly, let me know what you'd be most excited to do in the post-game, and which of these returning champions' new designs is your favorite in the comments section below. Also, please don't forget to go support all of the artists that made this video possible, and subscribe to my channel. I cannot wait to share the 2 DLC videos with you in the near future, as each DLC video will be massive, featuring new locations, stories, Pokemon, characters, and Forge forms. So stay tuned for that, as the Fyrún Saga continues in these 2 new tales. Take care.